Camp 22 Prison in North Korea has long been one of its largest and most dangerous prisons, housing some 6,000 prisoners who live under severe torture conditions. Watch as we examine their daily lives, the techniques of torture employed, escape attempts failed, and how international bodies have responded to violations against human rights. Camp 22 Prison, also known as the Haryong concentration camp in North Korea, is one of its largest detention complexes and notorious for its inhumane treatment of detainees. Situated near China and Russia's border in northeast North Korea's far northeast corner, Camp 22 Prison was one of several prison camps built during the 1960s in North Korea and considered one of the worst prison camps. Although North Korean government denies their existence, an estimate suggests up to 50,000 individuals may currently be detained there, with exact figures still unknown. At Camp 22 Prison, inhumane conditions prevail and detainees endure forced labor, hunger, and subpar medical attention. Beaten up by police for criminal conduct or untreated illnesses are prevalent through Camp 22, leading to physical assaults such as beatings or torture, and more severe types of physical abuse. Many detainees eventually succumb from assaults or illness left untreated by camp authorities. North Korean government denies the existence of Camp 22 Prison and other prison camps across its nation, despite repeated reports by former inmates and human rights organizations. The international community has demanded closure of these prison camps as violations against human rights are carried out by its leadership. Haryong concentration camp, also referred to as Camp 22 Prison, was founded in North Korea's northeast in the 1960s with the aim of holding political prisoners, their relatives, or anyone deemed by North Korean government officials as enemies of state in custody. Over time, this prison camp has transformed and grown, becoming one of North Korea's largest prisons. North Korean authorities have denied reports of human rights abuse at Camp 22 Prison and other North Korean prison camps. However, clear proof exists via former inmates, human rights organizations, satellite photography, and more. International pressure has mounted against North Korea to close prison camps and stop violating human rights for years, with much criticism coming from international bodies like the UN in terms of detainee treatment. Many organizations, including Human Rights Watch, demand closure of these detention facilities, yet little progress is being made and the atrocities continue. Camp 22 prison inmates live through an endless cycle of oppression, malnutrition, and hard labor every single day. Prisoners must often work in hazardous mines and factories without much respite or payment during long stints at mines or factories. Malnutrition in prison inmates often leads to serious health complications, or even death due to inadequate food supplies, leading to serious health concerns and even premature death from untreated illness, or injury brought upon by harsh working environments. Unfortunately, due to limited medical assistance, many prisoners pass away before receiving necessary treatments and care for these illnesses and injuries caused by working conditions they face every day. Psychological torture and physical suffering are an everyday reality for prisoners in prisons around the country, with guards using intimidation and terror tactics to maintain control. Beaten prisoners frequently receive beatings as part of physical torture, while self-criticism sessions force them into self-blame. Escape attempts may not be common, yet when successful, they often lead to harsh punishment, including torture or public execution. Prisoners caught trying to flee or making contact with outside sources are typically transferred to labor camps, which offer even harsher living conditions than prison. Inmates in Camp 22 Prison often form small communities to provide each other with emotional and material support despite harsh living conditions. They find ways to trade food and supplies while offering each other emotional assistance and moral support. Camp 22 prison inmates frequently experience various forms of physical and psychological abuse, including torture. One form is pigeon torture, in which prisoners spend hours kneeling with their hands tied behind their back, resulting in agonizing pain and irreversible knee damage. Tiger benches, which involve fastening prisoners to benches while binding their legs together and propping their feet up against something, can create excruciating discomfort that often results in permanent nerve damage and disability. Camp 22 Prison is well known for employing psychological torture on captives. Captives often feel terror and intimidation from guards using loud music and bright lighting, leaving them susceptible to questioning and confession from guards. Prisoners often become isolated during their confinement in small dark cells. This causes great mental strain and has even resulted in suicide attempts. Additionally, Camp 22 Prison has received multiple reports of sexual assault aimed at female inmates. Female inmates often become targets of rape and other forms of assault against them. Well-documented evidence points towards torture occurring at Camp 22 Prison and other North Korean labor camps. Former inmates have provided detailed accounts of their experiences to former prison officials, and world outrage has ensued over this violation of human rights by North Korean leaders. Camp 22 prison is notoriously known for harsh and unpredictable punishment and execution practices, often including beatings, torture, and forced labor under extreme conditions as punishments against prisoners who break camp rules or attempt to escape. When these occur, they're severely punished with beatings, torture, and forced labor under unsuitable conditions, not always as would have been desired based on previous experience with other prisons or establishments. Camp 22 prison inmates frequently face public execution for various offenses, such as attempted escapes, or possessing prohibited materials such as radios or Bibles. Executions of inmates often use cruel and unusual means, including hanging or shooting them before leaving their bodies on display for days after, as a deterrent against further crimes against those affected. Prisoners committing political offenses, such as criticizing North Korean dictatorship or seeking to avoid capture, will also face punishment and possible execution. Prison families are also subjected to punishment. Children of prisoners may be taken away to nearby camps or forced into factories or mines as punishment. Escape attempts at Camp 22 prison are rare, yet those that succeed face severe repercussions. Family members of inmates involved often incur punishment as a result of their behavior as well. Some prisoners attempt to flee prison through illegal means, often by employing paid guards or smugglers, even with the threat of severe punishment looming large. Escapees put their lives in jeopardy as they navigate perilous terrain to bypass officials and guards who keep them watch. People who manage to flee often face an uncertain future as they navigate unfamiliar regions, while dodging law enforcement officers and authorities who could arrest and extradite them back into North Korea, where more severe punishment awaits them. North Korean violations of human rights, specifically Camp 22 prison's presence and treatment of inmates by its government, has long been recognized and critiqued in international society. Human rights organizations, governments, and people all voice criticism against North Korea's treatment of prisoners at Camp 22, demanding its closure, along with closing any prison camps which exist there. The UN has been particularly outspoken about North Korean government violations of human rights and has strongly protested torture and forced labor practices within prison camps. Additionally, they've demanded an impartial human rights monitoring system be set up, along with freeing all political prisoners. Reacting to North Korea's violations of human rights, several nations have instituted economic sanctions and provided assistance and aid for refugees who have left its borders. Camp 22 prison in North Korea serves as a poignant testament to North Korean government abuse of human rights. Conditions within this prison camp exemplify the senseless violence and inhumanity suffered by detainees throughout their nation. Camp 22 prison is an eyewitness account of what occurs inside North Korean prison camps and serves as an important reminder for international audiences about how important it is that the pressure be maintained on North Korea to stop these abuses, noting the anguish endured by victims as we fight for human rights in North Korea. As yet, it remains unknown what will become of Camp 22 prison and when its closure may occur. North Korean government continues to deny their existence, while declining international inquiries due to global condemnations of their violations of human rights. Closure of Camp 22 prison and other North Korean prison camps has not progressed as planned. Neither the North Korean administration has shown an appetite to discuss or address violations against human rights in their nation. Human rights organizations and defectors have recently suggested that North Korean authorities are gradually decreasing the prison population at Camp 22 prison with an eye towards closing it altogether. Unfortunately, as no official notice from North Korean government regarding plans to close down Camp 22 was given prior to making these allegations public, no confirmation can be offered regarding such accusations. Camp 22 prison and North Korea's human rights situation remain in flux, so international stakeholders must continue applying pressure upon North Korean authorities to address violations and hold those responsible accountable for crimes against human rights. Camp 22 prison is an eyewitness account of this horrific abuse and dehumanization detainees experience in North Korean prison camps, and must continue exerting pressure upon North Korean authorities for violations against human rights, and those responsible should face justice. The international community should exert pressure upon North Korean officials in order to address violations against human rights and bring those accountable before justice for any atrocities they perpetrated against innocent detainees.